Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode 52 Authors, 52 Weeks. Today, you're in for another treat with my author for today, Maurice F. Martin. Name of the book. Now, watch this, folks. Your butt is too big. Now, before you all say, but, what butt are we talking about? It's B-U-T, not B-U-T-T. And this is 7 principles that empower you to heal past hurts and get motivated to find your purpose. Hello, Maurice. How are you today?
Hello, I am well, and thank you so much for having me today. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. So before we dig in to the topic, and for those of you who have not seen these episodes, I want to make something very clear. Number one, I do not meet with the authors in advance. I literally put out the call. There's a link that each author can fill out. After they fill out the link, we send them a message that says, schedule your time, and then we show up. The reason why I bring that up is that I think today, so many people are not, number one, walking in their purpose, but number
Mm,
two, are not showing up as their authentic self because they have this mask on. And
yes,
I know that in this day and time, such a time as this, authenticity is going to win every time.
every time.
So tell us about your background and then we'll dig into the book. Now, we're not going to tell y'all all about the book because we need you to purchase your own copy of the book so that you can experience the 7 principles for yourself.
Absolutely. So, a little bit about me. I know a lot about what it is to walk and be inauthentic. And I don't say that as a slam against myself or anybody who maybe is dealing with that. So, during my 20s, I was a professional musician and I had a decent amount of success, was signed to a couple indie labels with my band. We had licensing deals with MTV, VH1. We worked with Grammy winners and Emmy winners. And it was just, an amazing group of things that makes your resume sound amazing. But the truth is that behind the scenes, I was dealing with depression and anxiety. I had a lot of childhood trauma that was unhealed and unworked through. And so I eventually I fell apart. My life absolutely fell apart. And it was drinking and getting high every day. And my music career was nowhere to be found. And at some point you hit rock bottom. And for me, I hit rock bottom. And as I started to pick up the pieces of my life and put my life back together, that was when I actually became an author, a coach, and also a speaker. And so nowadays, what I do is I work with leaders, I work with individuals who are saying, you know what? I know there's more that is in me. I know there's more that I can bring to the table, but I'm not healthy enough to bring it. And so I help people, let's heal, let's grow, let's evolve, and then let's get to that purpose and those great works that you were born to live.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So first, let me just unpack a few of these areas. Number one, thank you so much for letting people know that I'm human. I don't look like what I've been through because
Right.
we so often walk around with our heads held up high, like nothing is going wrong. But at the end of the day, all HELL is breaking loose, right? And so thank you for sharing your journey because there's someone that is listening, watching this, or knows someone that is going through that same situation. And I always say, we don't go through for us, we go through so that we can tell others. And
Yes.
so once you start to share what you've been through, I believe that you have either healed or are healing because
Mm.
now you're brave enough to share the story without always breaking down while you're sharing the story, right? Because if you're broken, how can you help someone else through their thing if you show up and you're not fully where you need to be?
Yeah, that's so true. And one of the things that I found is it's not just people don't share their tragedies, it's people don't share their story, period. A lot of times when I sit down with clients, they say words like, I had an ordinary life, I haven't had any major issues in my life. And what they're saying is their life has been ordinary to them. So their disappointments, their heartbreaks, their heartaches, their things they've been through, they don't think anything of it. But the reality is what we live through shapes us, right? What it is that you go through in life, it has an imprint on you. the more you talk about it, not only do the people around you learn, oh, this is why you're this way, or this is why you have these strengths and these weaknesses, but also the more you share, the more you learn about yourself. And that is, to me, one of the most important lessons that I've learned in the process, right? I didn't start off telling my story, right? I had to heal to a place of, wow, this story is bigger than me. And the more I tell it, the more I grow.
Wow, wow. You know what? Something you said that just really resonated with me. I operate in a lot of different circles, right? Church,
Mm,
non-church, professional, non-professional, personal, all the things. And someone said to me that someone else had remarked, "Oh, that's just Lisa. She's different," right?
mm,
And when I thought about the person who said it, the person who told me, I know them, I know their authentic self, I know their story. But the
mhm,
person who said it, they are dealing with generations, decades of
mm,
pain and hurt.
mhm,
And when they see me operating in my zone of genius, see me being in alignment with my purpose, they
mhm,
think I'm different when really I'm being myself. I've been through a few things. I know where
mm.
I've been, but I am very clear on who Lisa L. Campbell is.
Come
And I
on.
don't care who has something to say about it because that's for them to deal with. Now, if they want me to help them with their thing, I'm definitely willing to do so. But we have to stop judging people and
Yes.
learn people. You know,
Mm.
I think a lot of times when we have conversations with people, they listen to respond, but not to understand.
Come on.
And when you just really, and sometimes I have to close my eyes and listen, and I'm like, oh, I get it. And that happened to me recently at a medical clinic where I'm going to be honest. I saw someone, I was the patient. I
Hmm.
saw someone and I immediately made some assumptions about them.
Mm. It's so
Because I'm not,
honest.
wait, well, first of all, I'm not perfect, right? A lot of
Hmm.
people think, oh, you think you're perfect. No. Oh,
You
no.
either?
No. Every day, Lisa L. Campbell is working on herself.
Come on.
But once I sat down and had a conversation with that person, I was like, wow, wow, that further confirms that you must seek to understand first before you respond. And it doesn't matter what someone looks like, their hair, their body type, any of those things. Just get to know that person first, and then you'll realize, wow, y'all got a lot in common. And it may not be that thing, but it's another thing. And if you just listen, then you can help each other grow as
Mhm.
opposed to judging.
Yes, that's it. Well, I think that most of us have learned to look at life through a lens of survival, right? So I'm looking around because I'm trying to understand what are the dangers around me, what are the things that could cut me off, could throw me off, and I would say to anyone who's listening today, you might find that oftentimes in your life you look around and you're looking for what is different about the person standing in front of me. Well, that's fine if that's the first question, right? That's the survival question. The thriving question is, now where are we the same? And when we start to learn that, then we learn about ourselves, right? We learn about our strengths, our weaknesses, our capabilities. There's so much we learn. One of the things, I know we're not jumping into the book yet, but one of the things I talk about in it is that there's something called the evaluation of your story. We all have a story we believe about our lives, and then we look from that lens at the people around us from our story's narrative, right? Everybody's out to get me. Everybody judges me. Nobody likes me. These people are too good for me. Whatever your narrative is, that's how you look at people. Well, when you start to look from a thriving place, then you can look at people and you're not threatened by them. You don't feel like you got to judge them. You can look for their greatness and it can inspire your greatness. And I think that's when we really begin to grow in life. And I've been there too, where you look at somebody and write them off and just push them aside. But what would happen if we started to realize, hey, the reason these conversations work, you and I don't know each other, but here's what we know about each other. Words have had the power of changing both of our lives.
I
We
love
both
it.
You're a believer. When you said such a time as this in your second or third sentence, I said, all right, so I know who she is, right? And I'm a man of faith as well. So for whatever reason, the God that we pray to put us in the same place at the same time with the same gift and the same passion and all these same things on two separate journeys. When we focus on what is the same instead of what is different, we find the way to grow.
Oh my gosh. Listen, so yes, because we sounding real churchy. So I'm just gonna say you are in the vein. Listen, listen. And that's, you know what? In my opinion, that's what's going to need to happen to set people free. And
That's
I'm
it.
personally on a mission to help one person at a time. When I go speak somewhere, if I can just help one person, I've done what I'm supposed to do. Because what I realize, some people are not ready for that next step. But then also, when you talk about the stories we tell ourselves versus reality, that's something that I'm constantly journaling about, constantly evaluating if the story I tell myself is the true story of Lisa L. Campbell.
That's so good. And here's what I would say to the person who's listening today who says, I know there's some areas of my life I want to improve, but I'm not ready. The question is not actually, are you ready for the next step? The question is the next step ready for you? If the next step has already been prepared for you, you don't have to get ready for it. You just have to find the courage to walk into it. What we often think is, I have to get perfect, then I'll go to the next step. Well, the truth is, it's the imperfection of the journey that perfects you. I say yes to walking. I say yes to healing. I say yes to building that business, to writing that book, to whatever it is I've been called to. And when I say yes, I start walking imperfectly and it makes me grow. That's actually the point.
Oh, I love it. I love it. We're gonna dig into this book because this session is only 30 minutes, and I can tell you and I could be on here for 8 hours dropping one gem after the next, but
Absolutely.
we only have 30 minutes. But what you are saying, have said, is so powerful. And I personally, is this microphone on? At the young age of 50, I'm 51 now. I decided that I had to become comfortable being uncomfortable. And let me just tell you, since I got on that journey, I have this level of peace that you can't pay for. You know how they talk about the peace that passes all understanding? Listen, this peace right here is so powerful that I can't even describe how I feel, but I feel like I'm just floating on air, walking around, and I'm walking in rooms, sometimes not even saying a word. Just by my smile, I'm having an impact on someone's life. And it's not something I made up. People tell me, it's just something about your smile that really made me feel better. And I'm like, thank you. But I didn't say a word, right? And then here's the funny part. Then we're going to really talk about the book. And this just happened recently. I might be speaking somewhere, keynote speaker. I'm literally sitting in the back row, may have on some gym shoes because I'm trying to be comfortable instead of being all focused on stilettos and red bottoms and all of that, because none of that is going to help nobody.
Right.
I normally just sit in the back row very quietly. I'm smiling, but I'm really just centering myself. And every time that I speak, then we're going to really talk about this book. I say very silently to myself, let the words of my heart and let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable. And that's my number one goal. So, butt is too big. Your butt is too big. So you told us a little bit about your story, but what made you realize that you needed to put this on paper?
That's such a good question. The first thing I want to say, actually, because I want to free you, because you kept saying, we're going to talk about this book. We're going to talk about this book. We've been talking about the book the whole time. Everything we're talking about right now is the whole purpose of the book. The peace that surpasses understanding is in the book. When you were talking about how that person told you were different, in my book, I talk about how the scripture says to Jeremiah, Before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you. I set you apart. So the reality is when we walk in our purpose, we will often be stared at and be set apart. I just wanted to throw that out there. We've
Hmm.
been talking about the book. So you asked me what is it that made me feel like, man, it was time to write this. There are just moments in life when you understand this moment is bigger than me. I had had two brothers die in 2 years. And this was at kind of the tail end of the depression and the heaviness that I'd been dealing with. My music career had fallen apart. Life was just not in a good place. I was drunk every day, high every day. I mean, I was not me. And I wasn't going to tell this story on this interview, but I'll tell it now since we've gone down this path. I was driving down a highway, June of 2016, and I was contemplating taking my life. Like we're talking about like which way can I drive off this road? I'm foot all the way on just flying down the highway. And I heard the still small voice of God speak for the first time. I'd never heard his voice. And I had a vision that day, and I'll just say to everybody who's listening, it changed my life. And so, as you could imagine, it had me questioning everything. Who am I and who is God and why am I here? And I clearly am not here for what I thought I was for, this music career. So what am I here for? And I realized that if I was going to find it all out and if I was going to grow and I was going to heal and I was going to become, I had to face everything from my past so that I could grow into my future. And you can't really make your future happen if you don't learn how to live in the present. And
Mm.
so when, the 7 principles that empower you to heal past hurt and get motivated to find purpose, here's all that means. When you find yourself saying, well, I'm going to work on that, but it's just, well, I'm going to build that up, but it's just, well, you got to understand that I would be doing that already, but every time you say but, there's a reason you say it. Your but has a story to it. And tragedy, trauma, heartbreak, drama, all the things we go through in life, it works very similarly to food. When you eat food, you scarf down that food, and hopefully your body processes it all. But whatever your body doesn't process, you hang on to. It becomes dead weight that you carry with you through life. The life events you deal with, they work in the same way. If you don't process them, you carry them and they become the dead weight. And now you end up staring at your butt instead of your belief. And
Mm.
so that's what this book is about is, hey, let's heal. Let's deal with it. Let's move past it for real, but get the lessons from it. And then let's find the boldness to say, what is it I'm supposed to do this year, this decade, this life? How do I go live it? That's really the whole point. That's really it.
Wow. Wow. I'm very rarely speechless.
Mm,
But I'm speechless at this moment because I feel that you're helping someone right now and
mm,
they didn't even realize they needed the help because we
mm,
just we just walk around like it's all good. I
mm,
recently read this book by Dr. William Bridges called Transitions. And in his
mm,
book, he talks about three phase of a transition because you have multiple transitions. Transitions are happening all around you and
mm,
in you, but he talks about the three phases. There's the phase where you have to close that chapter,
mm,
right? Then you move on into the neutral zone. Now he called it the neutral zone. I call
mm.
it the messy middle
Ooh,
because you've closed the door and you've
yep.
walked into this new this central space here where you're trying to figure things out. And it's
Mm,
so messy because you don't know what's in the next phase, which is the
mm,
new beginning. But
mm,
something you said happened to me. I was awake at 3 in the morning. Sometimes that happens when you're a menopausal woman. But still soft voice said to me, take the first step and I'll carry you the rest of the way.
ooh,
I
come on.
I had never really heard a still voice like that. But what I
Mm,
realized, we can't hear that still soft voice because we won't be silent, because we
yes.
won't get rid of the distractions, the cell phone. That cell phone has us all hostage.
Mm-hmm.
And I've really have been working on putting the cell phone in the other room, so that when I can go to sleep, I can go to sleep without all the stuff, right? I'm just bringing my whole self to the bed. I'm laying down. I've started meditating. And in the meditation moments, the silence moments, I see so many things. And when people used to talk about they would feel the same thing, I'm like, wow, I don't feel that same thing. But I realized I wasn't ready to feel that
Mm-hmm.
same.
Come on.
And once I closed the door and walked into my purpose space, I started to hear it. And the dreams that I've had have started to come to fruition. Dreams do happen, and they happen if you close the door. For me, starting to write down, just waking up in the morning and writing down how I'm feeling.
Mm.
And I know when you make a song, you put it, they used to say you put it on the ink or something like that, put it on the wax or whatever they used to say.
Put it on wax. Yep.
Yeah, right.
That was
Put
talking
it on,
about records. You know them
yeah,
records. You remember the
records.
records.
Yes, record. Listen, 8 tracks, reel to reels, all the things. But for me, writing it down dumps it out of my brain so that I'm not carrying whatever with me throughout the day, and I can give the day my attention.
That's
But
it.
also when I write, and I got this from reading another book. I read so many books.
I
But
see them.
yeah, oh yeah,
I've been reading the titles while we've been talking, trying
listen,
to understand
listen,
who you are.
listen. Who I am is someone who was told in third grade that I was reading at a first grade level and that I needed to repeat third grade. But God said, nope, she going to fourth grade. And I
Come
went to
on.
fourth grade. And so being told that I wasn't comprehending what I was reading, I didn't realize that it fueled my entire life and love for reading. Because guess what? Not only do I understand what I'm reading, I'm also coming up with revelations as I'm reading that can help somebody else.
That's
And
it.
it's all because of that one little standardized test that said I didn't know what I was doing.
Well,
But
a lot of the systems that we find ourselves in life, this is important for those of you who are listening today. Sometimes the definitions that people gave you, the whole point of this book is how do you redefine your life? Right? That someone told me when I was young, Maurice, you talk too much. Maurice became a professional speaker and Maurice became
they
a
told me the
voiceover
same
artist,
thing.
right? Like
They
Maurice
told
started.
me the same thing.
Think about it. So sometimes, people are trying to find discipline and they're trying to teach and they're trying to do all these things, but sometimes we get put into a box. And the question is, and here's the question I would ask every listener today, are you in the world's box or are you in your God box? See, when you go into your God box and you tap into your God box, life becomes limitless. Meaning, when you heal from all that stuff that's happening on the outside, now you move into a life of abundance, a life where, and I don't just mean abundance financially, I mean like, can I have a meaningful marriage? Can I have relationships that matter? Can my accomplishments bring me more joy? That's the whole point of your butt is too big. It's that when your butt gets out of the way, your belief system shifts. Now there is more hope and more joy and more peace. And there's something that you said in that was so critical. You said sometimes when we think about establishing that life we want, we kind of look at it and there's some trepidation and fear, like, oh Lord, I'm in the messy middle and I can barely survive this. I don't even know what's on the other side of the door. That's why one of the principles in my book is courage in the face of fear. That you have to have courage. Courage doesn't matter when there's nothing that's challenging your courage. Just like faith doesn't matter when there's nothing there to challenge your faith. You need courage when life gets scary and overwhelming, and you need to know, I am who I'm supposed to be for such a time as this, and all I need to do is take the first critical step. But what do I do after take the first step? Take a breath, then take the next one. And what you find is that everything that you've been through in your life has equipped you for this moment. And here's the last thing I want to say, because I want to make sure people really hear this. The lessons from your past become the wisdom of your present. People always say, well, when you live life, you grow. I disagree. That's not true. They say that time heals all wounds. I disagree. Those things are not actually true. Okay? I'm a counselor, I'm a coach. It's not true. Maurice, what do you mean? It only becomes true when you face the things and learn from them. So when I look at my last season, when I look at that stuff from my past and I say, self, what are the lessons? What's the insight? Now I take that stuff, and here's the critical part. I have to apply it to my life. I call that action in this book. You must take action. This is not just about philosophy. I have to apply the lessons because that is how I know I'm walking in wisdom. And so I think that is just so critical. The messy middle is messy for a reason. You're shedding your old self. You're putting on your new outfit for your new self, and you're getting used to it all. That's what happens in the messy middle. It's a beautiful mess.
So listen, this book has 7 principles, 3 sections. And listen, folks, we're not going to tell you everything that's in this book because we want you to read it for yourself. Because a lot of times when you read the words for yourself, it allows you an opportunity to relate, release. And for me, I'm a note taker. I'm writing, I'm highlighting, because I want to be able to pull the book back off the shelf. Because when you read a book once, that's not enough. You got to read it a second time because sometimes you're in a different place, right?
I agree.
And so I pull the book off the shelf and I can flip open the page to a highlight and say, you know what? During this time when I first read it, and I'm just going to tell you about me. All right. I write down, let's see if I write down the day and the time when I start reading the book. And I do that so that I can reflect later on, where was I?
Where was I in life?
Yes.
Wow.
And then it's so powerful to be able to look back and say, whoa, you've grown since you've read this book, and this is how you've grown. And when you read the book again, are you underlining, highlighting the same things? Or is there something different, right?
Yes.
That's coming out? And so I love that. So let me just share. I'm just going to share briefly with the audience. So it's 3 sections. Section number 1 is about changing your mindset. One of the books behind me is about mindset. It's somewhere up there. But then section 2 is applying, the practical application. And then number 3, spiritual takeaways. So of these 7 principles, which one is your favorite?
This is a good question. It's all of them, but there's 2 that I go back and forth with. I've been asked this before, and I think that it's probably what I call the balance of hope. That most of us think we're very future focused, right? So our brains are like, all right, I just got to reach this destination. And when I reach that destination, then I'll feel accomplished and I'll feel good about myself and I'll have more integrity and blah, 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 blah. And what happens is you get to the destination and you have an empty victory. And you're like, I guess the bar just moved. So now you go ahead and you set another goal. And so you are always very future focused when it comes to hope. What I learned in the last several years of my life, not only in my journey, but also helping so many others on theirs, is that we have to learn that hope has 2 components. You have to place your hope in a place, or I should say a time, and then in something, right? And so what I often say, here's the most important part. We can't just say, I hope that someday. What about today? Today is a powerful, beautiful day. You can accomplish something towards your goals today. You can confront a fear today. You can schedule an appointment today. You can take a swing at that fight of life today. What about today? I don't just need hope for tomorrow. I need hope for right now. And so when I say the balance of hope, it means if all of your hope is shifted towards the future, you will not get any satisfaction out of the present. And so the first part of the balance of hope is make sure your hope is rooted in now. And the other part is make sure your hope is rooted in the God who gave you the hope, which is to say, look, you were created for something that's bigger than you. Because I wrote this book, I'm sitting and talking to you. This is my fourth or fifth interview this week. I'm talking to people I never thought I would ever talk to. I'm sitting in my house, and right, like I'm sitting in my home. My kids were just screaming in the next room over,
It's
and
all right.
I'm talking to people all over the world. Not because my writing is so good, but because I said yes to hoping now and believing that God had a plan for me that was bigger than my own. So to me, the balance of hope is critical. Don't just wait for someday. Lean into today. This is the someday you said you were waiting for 10 years ago. This is the someday you said you were waiting for 2 weeks ago. Someday I'll start writing my book. Well, it's someday. Open up your notebook. Someday I'll make that phone call and I'll apologize. It's someday. Make the call, place the text. Someday I'll see what I'm saying. I hope you guys, as you're listening, the greatest compliment anybody ever gives me with this book is a lot of people say, certain parts of the book, it was just weird because I felt like you were talking to me. Like it was just a one-on-one conversation and you were writing something that I needed to know. It's the great, and I just want to challenge people. If you lean into this moment, you might find that God has sent something, some words just for you right now.
Speaking of words, let me read something here.
Mm.
Beloved, however you want to say it. I want you to know that I understand. You take your life to the next level if you could. There just always seems to be something in the way, and the mountain is you. Because you won't take that first step. And you know what? So let me just tell you my favorite, number 6, principle number 6. Number 6, courage in the face of fear.
That's
And I'm going
it.
to tell you why. My last chapter in my book, which is called Grow With Me, my chapter is faith over fear.
Come on.
And for those of you who are thinking, I really want to tell my story, you don't have to take out a piece of paper and a pen. You can open up your phone, the voice recorder, and speak to the phone.
Yes, you
What
can.
I did when I wrote this chapter, I was at a retreat on the sunny beaches of Montego Bay, and I spoke to Microsoft Word, which was transcribing my words. And I was speaking and I was crying. And my roommate was like, "Did you record that audio?" I was like, "No, I was just speaking to Microsoft Word." And she was like, "It was so powerful." I left out of the room with just like right now, I have no makeup on. I had this glow when I walked down to the beach for our final event, and everybody could see the glow on me because that's when I released what was holding me back. I was shedding all of this weight that no longer served me, and I walked out a new person. All from just speaking my truth. So you don't have to write it down, you can record it. And for me, the speaking and the crying are powerful. And I know some people probably think, wow, she cries a lot. I'm crying a lot because I'm shedding all of these things
Come on.
from years ago that have been holding me hostage, so that when I show up in a place, I'm showing up as this person who is ready to pour into everybody else.
Yes.
But you can't pour from an empty cup. That's what they say.
Yeah, and you know, and here's what I've started teaching. I used to teach that too, right? Can't pour from an empty cup. This is what I say to everybody who's listening today. In all the years that I've been counseling and coaching and speaking to crowds now and speaking to rooms, I've never seen a person with an empty cup. But I've seen people with cups that were full of the wrong things. Your cup can be full of despair, can be full of frustration, can be full of aggravation, can be full of, just think of the things that you're full of. I'm up to here. We call that emptiness, but what it really means is it's full of the wrong things. And once we realize that, we can do something about it. That's the point. That glow that you talked about, we glow whenever we emerge into the real us. Most of us, if you get honest, the things that we've been through in life begin to pile on top of the real us. I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. There's an innocence about them. There is this confidence about them where they'll do anything, say anything, try anything, why not? And I remember when I was that person, but it's been a long, long time because of everybody who told me what I couldn't do and what I couldn't be. And I'm the only person who's seen every time I did something foul and did something phony, and every time I screwed up on purpose, and every time I self-sabotage. I've seen it all. And all of those layers begin to sit on top of the real you. I call it the realest you in the book. So when you say the tears I'm crying, I'm shedding something, you're shedding the fake you. You're shedding the, oh, I don't have to put on that act no more. You're shedding that, wow, I've walked into my next, I don't have to sit back there no more. That's what you shed. And that's what brings you to the word you used earlier. That's what brings us to freedom. Freedom. I want you guys to notice that when the two of us talk, we keep using each other's words in the conversation because we're both listening. When you get so engaged in the moment, so wrapped up in now, you understand that everything that happens in conversation becomes fuel to fuel your life. Everything that you need, you have in this moment. There's nothing missing. There's nothing lacking. No, but there is stuff lacking in my life. No, there's not. You're who you're supposed to be right now. What about later? Well, if you do what you need to do now, you'll grow into who you need to be later. And that's the key. That is the beauty of this moment, the magnificence of this moment. And you know, and I'll say this. I've had people say to me, Maurice, you don't want to know why I've never read your book? And I said, okay. And they said, I don't know if I'm broken enough. Like, it sounds like your book is for the broken. And I say, okay, my book is for anybody who knows they haven't maxed out yet. If you know that there is more to you, that you have another level in you, even if you have the degrees, even if you have money in the bank account, if you have a beautiful fit, if there's more to you, the book is for you. It's not just for broken people. It's for people who have been through broken situations where, let's face it, you can climb the ladder but sink in parts of your life. That's who it's for. And I just want everybody to understand that you're not, if you don't have a whole bunch of tragedy and heartbreak in your story, that doesn't mean you're disqualified to read this book.
Listen, help the people, help them, because you know what? I told someone recently, I've learned more from reading these books than I did in my entire academic journey.
Wow.
Each and every book has a message in it. And the first thing you have to do is not make assumptions about what's inside of the book. Just go on the journey.
Yes.
And something else you said earlier that I think is so important, which is about our experiences. No experience left behind. All the things that you've experienced in life help fuel something in the future. And you don't even know. Like, they told us we talk too much. Guess what? My report card had a check mark. Lisa talks too much.
Right. Well, you and me both.
People are paying me to talk. So now what? So it's those labels that people put on us that sometimes we allow to define us instead of becoming more self-aware of who we are, whose we are, and who we are destined to serve. Speaking of, I want our listening and viewing audience to know where they can find you. When this episode airs, we'll have it going down the bottom of the screen, but I want them to hear the words from your mouth. So where can they find you?
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to ask you to please come find me. Come to mauricefmartin.com first. And would you please just meet me there? My books are there. I have a book and a workbook. So there's a workbook that pairs with this. There's also a prayer journal as well. And so I want to invite everybody, go to that website. Maybe you also, you've heard me speak today and you thought, wow, I need you to speak at my church. I want you to speak at an event I have coming up, at my business. My team needs to be galvanized. We're burned out. please reach out to me on my website. I'd love to reach out to you and work with you. And then you can also come find me online at Maurice F. Martin. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube. I have a podcast. So come on to YouTube. Come find me there. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. So that's where everybody can find me.
Come on in the room. Well, listen, it has been such an honor to meet you. Every single episode, every author that I meet, my life has been changed forever. To the extent, originally, I thought that 52 authors, 52 weeks was just a 2024 theme, but I realized that this theme needed to last as long as I was physically and mentally able to do so. So 52
That's so good.
authors, 52 weeks is here to stay, because I believe that there are so many lessons that people need to learn. And, you know, a $20, $30 book is a lot cheaper than a $5,000-$6,000 hospital bill. And I'm just going to speak from experience as a person who took 30 Tylenol to try to end my life, to sitting in the emergency room, them pumping my stomach with charcoal, and then the ambulance ride to the mental hospital where I spent 6 hours in this room realizing this is not what you're supposed to be doing. But it was that one defining moment that flipped the switch and set me on a path. And I share that with people because they're like, well, you have all the degrees and all the things, but I've been through a few things.
I've been through some stuff.
I've been through some stuff. And but the good thing is I live to tell the story. I've lived to share my journey with others who are afraid to say what they did. Because I know it's a lot more folks than you and I that did some things they just don't want to share, or some things happen to them that they don't want to share.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You gotta dump it out of your body. There's a reason why we have a digestive system and a urinary system. Your body has to be eliminated of waste.
That's it.
If you don't eliminate it, it's gonna back up. It's gonna hurt your heart. It's gonna hurt your head, and you're just gonna be all over the place. So, any final parting words other than I love the branding, Maurice F. Martin. I do the same thing. I'm Dr. Lisa L. Campbell. But what's a final message that you want to leave our audience with today?
Well, I really think that Dr. Lisa really hit it on the head at the beginning when she said to everybody that her goal was freedom, one person at a time. We have the same goal. And so I would say to you, if you feel like you're not free in an area of your life, you're not free financially, or you're not free in your relationship to be who you need to be, or you're not free in your business, whatever it is, freedom is possible. And so I just want you to encourage you not only to know that it's possible, but to know you're worth investing the time and the energy and the effort to get to the freedom. I just want you to know you're worth it.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining the show today, everyone. This has been another amazing, amazing episode. 52 authors, 52 weeks. We'll see you next week.